In this episode of Premier Interschools, we look ahead to this Western Cape encounter between Bishops and Paul Roos, live on SuperSport. The Premier Interschools 2021 season is well underway, and after a year off the park, the boys are raring to go.
So many of our traditional boys' schools rely on mass participation and mass events, like going to a chapel service. It can be in an assembly, but it's also through things like our Stedfords and rugby games and other sports games where you've got hundreds of boys together wearing the same uniform, supporting their friends, watching a special event, and so for the boys to be back in that kind of space again, or at least getting close to that space again, is really important for them.
I think it means so many things to them. First of all, to do what they love doing, playing sport, to compete, to represent themselves, to wear the maroon jersey, to play at the Markotter, and also, I think, to win, to lose and to draw with their friends, to just experience that camaraderie. But I think they're just so immensely grateful to be back on the field.
Last week, Grey College visited Paarl Boys and took the honours with a convincing 37-3 victory over the hosts at Brook Street. This week, it's another massive encounter between two top Western Cape schools as Paul Roos travel from Stellenbosch to Cape Town to take on Bishops. The following week, Wynberg Boys visit Port Elizabeth, where they will be hosted by Grey High for a highly anticipated game. And then the Oakdale Boys from the farm in Riversdale will visit Bloemfontein to take on Grey College. The game between Bishops and Paul Roos has deep roots in the sporting code of rugby. Both schools played a part in the forming of the identity of the Springboks. The famous Piley Rees Field at Bishops was the first rugby pitch in the country, and Bishops' old boy Barry Heatley was the first Bishops captain of a South African team, playing local test matches against Britain in 1896 and 1903. It was Heatley who provided the old diocesan's green jerseys for the South African team, which is the reason the Springbok jersey remains green to this day. Founded by Bishop Robert Gray in 1849, Bishops' formal name of the Diocesan School of the Diocese of Cape Town was rather a mouthful, so Cape Townians simply called it the Bishop School, and the name has stuck. Bishops has contributed over 37 Springboks, and almost 50 if one includes South African players, before they became known as Springboks. More recent alumni include Selborne Boom, former Stormers coach Robbie Fleck, Francois Lowe and Christian Stewart, who also represented Canada. Other internationals were Stuart Abbott for England, Hull Luscombe for Wales, and the late Daniel Vickerman for Australia. Traditionally, the Bishop style of rugby has always been more of a running game, developed by coaches like Piley Rees, Basil Bay and Paul Dobson to counter the more heavy-set boys from the Boerland. However, this year, Bishops and Paul Roos are well matched in both the forwards and backline, and we can expect a cracker of a game on the famous Piley Rees Field.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the games that you don't want to miss. There's been a lot of tension between the two sides since we were juniors. I think in under 15 we drew that game, and then in under 16 we just got the win. And I actually played with some of the Paul Roos guys about 2 years ago. So they're very good guys, I know them very well, and they're very good rugby players. But I can say the same for the guys on my side. So that will be a very exciting game to watch.
Yeah, Bishop is always an interesting game because they play a unique style of running rugby. But I think we have quite a mobile team as well this year, and we've got a fair amount of pace. So I'm looking forward to the derby in Cape Town. It's going to be interesting.
We've done well against them in the last 5 years. We have an unbeaten rate against them. We've drawn once and won twice, which is quite good against an Afrikaans school like that. They're normally quite dominant. So as teams normally go in as the underdog against Paul Roos, we're looking for quite a fair fight, and we're going in trying to win rather than look at being an underdog.
Yes, obviously the first team hasn't played Bishops in a while, but if I look back into our under-16A game against Bishops under-16A in 2019, it was a close game, and I think that's going to carry over. Having the under-15s of 2019 joining us in the first team, I think that's going to be quite a close game.
Since under-14 to under-16, it's been a close encounter. Under-14, we've only beaten them by like 1 point. Under-16 we draw, under-15 we draw. Under-16 we've beaten them by 5 points. So it's really close encounter, and hopefully we're learning from the mistakes from the previous first teams, and we can utilize that and use it to our best abilities.
So when playing against any of the English schools is always unexpected because you never know what you might get. So especially with Bishops, and they might get running rugby for sure. You know that's going to happen. So, but they might hit you unexpectedly with moves, and we do know a few of their players. So they have a few star players in their team. But I feel our chances for this year are good. So, and we are expecting a very tough game, very physical as well. And yes, so we're just backing our players, and we know we'll give everything we have to make it worthwhile.
Due to the pandemic, Bishop's results from the last 10 games are spread over 3 years, with both a win and a loss to Rondebosch in 2019 and the 2021 squad beating their other southern suburbs rivals, Sachs and Wynberg boys.
Interesting for us though is that our matric group have never lost to Paul Roos in high school, so they've beaten them in under 14s, 15s, 16s, and so we're looking forward to the matchup. I think it's going to be pretty evenly based, but I know their coach Jacques Hanekom very well. He coached me when I was 19 years old, and he knows me very well. This one, it's much anticipated, and it's been a long time coming, and you know the two schools with great tradition, it's going to be a cracker.
The schools have not played against one another for the last 2 years, and Paul Roos's winning streak over the previous 5 years is no guarantee of success. This year's age group has yet to win against Bishops, and they will be playing on the Piley. However, the boys from Stellenbosch have as much tradition to defend as their Cape Town rivals. By all accounts, this is going to be the game to watch on Saturday.
I think it's a totally new game in the sense that I know 2018 Paul Roos had a very good, strong side. 2019 nothing, but it's always fun against Bishops. I've cut my teeth coaching against somebody like Basil Bay when I started as a young coach, and he was at Bishops. And the nice thing about them is you never know what you're going to get. You always know it's going to be fast-paced and it will be competitive. So especially on the Piley Rees, it will be funny to be there without the parents and spectators. But I think the natural environment and the spirit around that pitch will make it a great and exciting game.
The 2019 team was unbeaten at the Sanex World Rugby Tournament and lost only to Parelgym, Paarl Boys and Grade College. To date, the 2021 team has notched up a win against Boland Landbou, although suffering a 10-point loss to Parelgym. Paul Roos is one of the oldest schools in the country. Originally called Stellenbosch Gymnasium, the school was founded in 1866. Paul Roos was a teacher at the school when he became the captain who led the newly named Springbokken in their first overseas tour to Britain in 1906. The tour was a remarkable success. The Springboks won 26 of the 29 games played and won the Test Series. Wampola, as he was affectionately known, later became rector of the school, and it was renamed in his honor in 1941. Paul Roos has produced the most Springboks of any school in South Africa to date, with 55 of their alumni wearing the green and gold, including more recently Francois Hougaard, Willie Leroux, Scout Brits, Joandre Creer, Andries Becker, Kobus Versaghi, Steven Kitsoff, Damian Willemse, Justin Swart, and most recently scrum half Herschel Jantjies. Bishops will host Paul Roos on the famous Piley Rees field this Saturday in a titanic rugby encounter. But what impact have the schools had on the boys' lives off the field?
A core value of Bishops is respect, and we obviously intend to play every game with respect. Respect for the referee, respect for the opposition, the spectators, and just for the game of rugby.
Oh, it's a massive role. I mean, not only on the field but also off the field. When we play rugby, we don't want people to see just rugby. We want them to see our values and see what we stand for as Paul Roos.
With two of the most historical and traditional rugby schools locking horns in Cape Town, all eyes are on the Piley Rees field as the boys from Bishops take on the maroon jerseys of Paul Roos in a tightly matched game of epic schools rugby. Watch Bishops versus Paul Roos in Premier Interschools Rugby this Saturday, live on SuperSport.